Be me 23, fresh out of college, landed my first real job, junior graphic designer at a mid-sized marketing firm. Basically, I make PowerPoints look pretty and occasionally get to design a brochure that no one will ever read. The pay is just enough to afford my shoebox apartment and instant noodles. Living the dream, right? The office is your standard corporate fare, gray cubicles, fluorescent lights that hum just loud enough to drive you insane, and the constant smell of burnt coffee. My team is small. There's Dave, the perpetually stressed out manager who survives on caffeine and nicotine. There's Sarah, the bubbly senior designer who's actually really cool and patient with my endless questions. And then there's Liam, the office douchebag. Every office has one. Liam's our guy. Smug, condescending, and thinks he's God's gift to graphic design because he knows a few extra Photoshop shortcuts. He's the kind of guy who calls himself a design guru unironically. And then there was her. Her name was Maya. She was in the cubicle across from me. She was quiet, not shy, not timid, just quiet. Like unnervingly quiet. She was a web developer, one of the coding wizards who sat in our section for some reason. Most days, the only sound you'd hear from her was the soft clacking of her keyboard. She had this long, dark hair that usually hid her face, and she always wore these big, noise-canceling headphones. My only interactions with her for the first few months were a quiet hey in the morning and a see ya in the evening. Sometimes she'd just nod. She was an enigma, a ghost in the machine. Now a little about me, I'm not exactly a social butterfly. I have my moments, but I'm generally the type to keep my head down and avoid conflict. Years of being the awkward, lanky kid in school will do that to you. Liam, of course, picked up on this on day one. My first week, I was struggling with a client's ridiculously vague feedback. Make it pop more, they said, classic. I asked Liam for some advice since he'd been on the account longer. He glanced at my screen for half a second, let out a condescending chuckle, and said, "Wow, you really don't know what you're doing, do you? Maybe stick to making coffee." He said it just loud enough for the whole section to hear. My face went beet red. I just mumbled a sorry to bother you and turned back to my screen, feeling about 2 inches tall. That became the norm. Little digs here and there, forgetting to invite me to team lunches, accidentally deleting a file I needed. I never stood up for myself. I'd just take it, my anxiety screaming at me to just stay quiet and not make a scene. One Tuesday afternoon, things escalated. We had a big presentation for a new client. It was a huge deal and Dave was on edge. My job was to finalize the presentation deck. I'd been working on it for a week straight, pulling late nights to make sure everything was perfect. I was proud of it. It was clean, professional, and I thought it looked damn good. An hour before the meeting, Liam strolls over to my desk. "Hey, new guy, let me see the deck. Gotta make sure you didn't screw it up." He didn't even wait for my permission, just grabbed my mouse and started clicking through the slides. "Tusk, tusk," he said, shaking his head. "This is all wrong. The kerning is off. The color palette is amateurish. Did you even read the client's brand guidelines?" I'd read them 5 times. I thought it looked okay," I stammered. "Yeah, well, that's why you're the junior, I guess," he smirked. "Look, I'll fix it. I've got this. Just go get me a coffee or something." He shooed me away from my own desk. I felt that familiar hot shame creeping up my neck. But what could I do? He was a senior designer. Maybe he was right. So, like a coward, I went to the break room. When I came back, he was still at my computer, frantically typing. "There," he said, standing up with a triumphant look. "I saved it. You can thank me later." I sat down and looked at the screen. It was a disaster. He'd changed the fonts to some god-awful, kitschy script. The color palette was now a garish neon nightmare. He'd added cheesy starbursts and drop shadows everywhere. It looked like a PowerPoint presentation from 1998. "Liam, what did you do?" My voice trembled. "The meeting is in less than an hour." "Relax, I improved it. It's got that pop you're always missing," he said with a wink and walked away. Panic set in, pure, unadulterated panic. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I tried to undo his changes, but he'd saved over the original file and cleared the version history. I was screwed, completely and utterly screwed. I was going to be fired. On top of that, Dave was going to kill me. I put my head in my hands, trying not to have a full-blown meltdown in the middle of the office. I could feel my eyes starting to well up. Suddenly, a shadow fell over my desk. I looked up. It was Maya. She had taken her headphones off. I think it was the first time I'd seen her without them. She was looking at my screen, then at my face. Her expression was unreadable. "He did this?" she asked. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but clear. I just nodded, unable to speak. I was too choked up. She stared at the screen for another moment, her brow furrowed slightly. Then she did something I never expected. She pulled up a chair and sat down next to me. "Move," she said, not unkindly. I slid over, confused. Her fingers flew across my keyboard. She was a blur of motion. She opened up some program I'd never seen before, a black screen with lines of green text. She was typing in code, her eyes darting around the screen. "The server does rolling backups every 15 minutes, she said, her voice still quiet and even. "He saved his version at 2:17 p.m. The last clean backup was at 2:05 p.m. I can pull it." I just stared at her dumbfounded. You can do that." She didn't answer, her focus entirely on the screen. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only a minute, a new file appeared on my desktop. Deck Restored, it was called. I opened it. It was my original design, perfect, untouched, just as I had left it. The wave of relief that washed over me was so intense I felt dizzy. "Oh my God," I breathed. "Maya, thank you so much, you saved me." She finally looked at me. Her eyes were a deep, dark brown. "He's a bully," she said, her voice flat. "I don't like bullies." And with that, she got up, went back to her cubicle, put her headphones on, and started typing as if nothing had happened. The presentation went great. Dave was thrilled, the client was impressed. Liam shot me a confused, angry look when he saw the original design up on the screen, but he couldn't say anything in front of the client. I felt a little spark of victory. For the rest of the day, I kept glancing over at Maya. This quiet, unassuming woman had just saved my career with some kind of coding black magic. Who was she? The next day, I brought her a coffee. A fancy one from the good coffee shop down the street, not the burnt sludge from the break room. I set it on her desk. "Hey," I said, "I just wanted to thank you again for yesterday. You really had my back." She took her headphones off and looked at the coffee, then at me. A tiny, almost imperceptible smile touched the corners of her lips. "It's a flat white," she said. Yeah," I replied, confused. "Is that okay? It's my favorite," she said. "How did you know?" I hadn't. "Total fluke. Just a lucky guess," I said, trying to play it cool. She took a sip. "Thank you." And that was the start of it. We started talking more. Little things at first. I'd ask her about the code she was writing, and she'd explain it to me in a way that my non-developer brain could almost understand. I learned that she was ridiculously smart, like Mensa-level smart. She saw patterns and systems in everything. She learned that I was a huge nerd for old sci-fi movies and that I had a cat named Winston. She asked to see a picture of Winston, and when I showed her, she actually laughed. A real, genuine laugh. It was a nice sound. Liam, however, didn't let up. He saw that I was starting to come out of my shell, and I think he hated it. He'd make snide remarks about my work in team meetings. He'd accidentally spill coffee near my desk. Every time he did it, I'd see Maya watching from her cubicle. Her expression was always the same, blank, but her eyes were like daggers. One afternoon, I was on my lunch break, sitting in the park across the street trying to enjoy a sandwich. Liam and two of his buddies from the sales department came over. Well, look what we have here," Liam said, looming over me. "It's the office charity case all by himself." I just tried to ignore him, hoping he'd get bored and leave. "What's the matter?" he sneered. "Cat got your tongue. Or are you just as useless at talking as you are at designing?" His friend snickered. I felt that old, familiar shame washing over me. My hands were shaking. I just stayed silent, staring at my half-eaten sandwich. "Pathetic," he said. And then he reached down, snatched my sandwich out of my hand, and threw it on the ground. "Oops," he said with a fake pout. I just snapped. All the frustration, all the humiliation, it just boiled over. I stood up, my fists clenched. "What the hell is your problem, man?" Liam looked surprised, then he grinned. "Oh, look at that, the little mouse is trying to squeak." He shoved me hard. I stumbled back, tripping over a curb and landing hard on my ass. The whole world seemed to go into slow motion. My head was ringing. Liam and his friends were laughing. I felt utterly, completely defeated. And then I saw her. Maya was standing there about 20 feet away. She must have been on her lunch break too. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Liam, and the look on her face, it wasn't anger. It was something else, something colder. Colder and much, much scarier. It was the look of a predator. She just stood there watching as Liam and his goons walked away, still laughing. She didn't come over to help me up. She didn't say a word. She just watched them go, and then she turned and walked back towards the office. I felt a chill run down my spine that had nothing to do with the fall. The next morning, something was off. There was a weird tension in the office. People were gathered in little groups, whispering. I saw Dave pull Liam into his office. They were in there for a long time. When Liam came out, he was pale, like sheet white. He didn't look at anyone. He just went to his desk, packed up his stuff in a cardboard box, and walked out. He didn't even say goodbye. Just like that, he was gone. I was baffled. Everyone was. The rumor mill was going crazy. Sarah came over to my desk, her eyes wide. "You are not going to believe this," she whispered. "What happened?" I asked. "Someone sent an anonymous email to HR and all the senior partners last night." "An email about what?" "About Liam," she said, leaning in closer. "Apparently, he's been fudging his timesheets for months, like claiming hundreds of hours of overtime he never worked. And that's not all. The email also had proof that he's been freelancing for one of our biggest competitors, using our company's software and resources to do it." My jaw dropped. "No way," she said. "The email had everything. Server logs, file access timestamps, copies of his emails to the other company. It was a digital nuke. They had no choice but to fire him on the spot. They're even talking about suing him." I was stunned into silence. How could anyone get that kind of information? And then I looked over at Maya's cubicle. She was sitting there, same as always, headphones on, typing away. The quiet girl, the ghost in the machine, but I saw it, just for a second. On her screen, before she quickly switched back to her work, I saw that same black window with the green text, the one she used to restore my presentation. My blood ran cold. It was her. She did it. She had seen what happened in the park, and she had responded, not with fists or shouts, but with a silent digital execution. She had systematically and ruthlessly dismantled Liam's entire career overnight. This wasn't just being protective. This was something else. This was a declaration of war. I didn't know what to do. Should I say something? Should I pretend I didn't know? I was a weird mix of terrified and grateful. No one had ever stood up for me like that before, not in my entire life. But the way she did it, it was terrifying. That afternoon, I walked over to her desk. My heart was pounding. She saw me coming and took her headphones off. "Hey," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Hey," she replied, her face as unreadable as ever. I just stood there for a moment, not knowing what to say. "So Liam's gone," I finally managed to get out. She just nodded. "I heard." There was an awkward silence. "It was you, wasn't it?" I asked, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. She didn't deny it. She didn't confirm it. She just looked at me with those dark, intense eyes. "He pushed you," she said, her voice low and steady. "He threw your sandwich on the ground. He humiliated you. That was inefficient." Inefficient. That's the word she used. "I don't like people who disrupt the system," she continued. "He was a bug. I just debugged him." I stared at her, a million thoughts racing through my mind. This quiet girl, this coding wizard, saw the world in a completely different way. To her, a bully wasn't just a jerk. He was a flaw in the code of her environment, a bug that needed to be patched out of existence. And for some reason, I was part of her system now, a part that she felt the need to protect. I should have been scared, a part of me was, but mostly I felt this overwhelming sense of safety, like I had a guardian angel. A really weird, socially awkward, terrifyingly competent guardian angel. I pulled up a chair and sat down next to her. "Well," I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. "Thank you for debugging him." For the second time since I'd known her, a real smile graced her face. It changed everything. It was like the sun coming out from behind the clouds. "You're welcome," she said. "Do you want to get lunch tomorrow? There's a Thai place I've been meaning to analyze." "Analyze a Thai place, of course. I'd love that," I said. We started hanging out more after that, both in and out of the office. I learned more about her. She grew up in a very structured, logic-driven household. She learned to code when she was 10. Social cues were like a foreign language to her, one she was slowly trying to learn. I was her Rosetta Stone, I guess. I helped her navigate small talk and office parties. And she helped me. She helped me find my confidence. Knowing she had my back, even in her own weird, terrifying way, made me less afraid. I started speaking up in meetings, sharing my ideas. I started pushing back when clients gave ridiculous feedback. I stopped being the scared little mouse. My work got better. I got a promotion. Dave even started giving me the lead on big projects. Our friendship was strange, but it worked. She was the logic, I was the emotion. She was the code, I was the color palette. We balanced each other out. And yeah, her overprotectiveness still came out in weird ways. One time, a guy at a bar was being a little too aggressive and hitting on me. I was handling it, but Maya, who was with me, apparently decided he was a security threat. The next day, the guy's very popular dating profile was suddenly and mysteriously replaced with a 5,000-word essay on the mating habits of the blobfish. I had my suspicions. Another time, my landlord was trying to illegally evict me. I was panicking. Maya just said, "Let me see the lease agreement and the local housing regulations." An hour later, she had drafted an email to him that not only quoted the specific laws he was breaking, but also included a courtesy audit of his building's public safety records, highlighting several unresolved violations. He dropped the eviction notice the next morning. It wasn't a normal friendship, but it was the realest one I'd ever had. She wasn't just my friend, she was my firewall, my debugger, my silent, watchful protector, and I was hers. I helped her understand the illogical, messy, beautiful world of human connection. Looking back, it's funny. I came to that job a scared, anxious kid just trying to survive. I thought I was alone. But I found an ally in the most unexpected person imaginable. The quiet girl in the corner, the one no one ever noticed. She turned out to be the strongest person I've ever met. She taught me that you don't have to be loud to be powerful. And that sometimes the best way to deal with a bully isn't to punch back, but to quietly and completely delete them from the equation. She's still weird, she's still overprotective, and I wouldn't have her any other way.